Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text number 15. Ishabhisrishtam hyavarun mahenga Dukkam sukham va gunakarma sangha Asthaya tad yadayuntanatha Kshushmatandha ivaniyamana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. My dear Priyavrata, according to our association with different modes of material nature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives us our specific bodies, and the happiness and distress we achieve. One must therefore remain situated as he is and be conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exactly as a blind man is led by a person who has eyes with which to see. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By material means, one cannot avoid the happiness and distress unique to his particular body. There are 8,400,000 bodily forms, each destined to enjoy and suffer a certain amount of happiness and distress. This we cannot change, for the happiness and distress are ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in accordance with whose decision we have received our bodies. Since we cannot avoid the plan of the Supreme Godhead, we must agree to be directed by Him, just as a blind man is led by a person who has eyes. Under any circumstances, if we remain in the condition allotted to us by the Supreme Lord and follow His instructions, we will become perfect. The main purpose of life is to follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is such instructions that constitute one's religion or occupational duty. In Bhagavad Gita, therefore, Lord Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Give up all other engagements. Simply surrender unto me and follow me. This process of surrendering, by following the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not meant for any particular caste or creed. A Brahmana can surrender, and so can a Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Everyone can adopt this process. As stated in this verse, Chakshushmatandha iva niyamanaha. One should follow the Lord the way a blind man follows a person who has eyes. If we follow the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by following the directions He gives in the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita, our lives will be successful. The Lord therefore says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru Mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Always think of me, become my devotee, and offer respect and obeisances unto me. Then you will certainly come back home, back to Godhead. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. This instruction is meant for everyone, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. If anyone from any division of life surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and follows His instructions, his life will be successful. The previous verse has given the analogy of bulls moving under the direction of the driver of a bullock cart. The bulls, being completely surrendered to the driver, remain wherever he wants to place them and eat whatever he wants them to eat. Similarly, being completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should not aspire for happiness or regret distress. We must be satisfied with the position allotted to us by the Lord. We should follow the path of devotional service and not be dissatisfied with the happiness and distress He has given. People in the material modes of passion and ignorance generally cannot understand the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with its 8,400,000 forms of life. But the human form affords one of the special privilege to understand this plan. Engage in devotional service and elevate oneself to the highest position of perfection by following the Lord's instruction. The entire world is working under the influence of the modes of material nature, especially ignorance and passion. But if people engage in hearing and chanting about the glories of the Supreme Lord, their lives can be successful and they can be elevated to the highest perfection. In the Brihanaradiya Purana, therefore it is said, Harer Nama, Harer Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyatha. In this age of Kali, there is no other way for spiritual perfection than the holy name of the Lord. Everyone should be given the chance to hear the holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For thus one will gradually come to understand his real position in life and be elevated to the transcendental position above the modes of goodness. Thus all impediments to his progress will be cut to pieces. In conclusion, therefore, we must be satisfied in whatever position we have been put into by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we should try to engage ourselves in His devotional service. Then our lives will be successful. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So we are reading in this chapter, Lord Brahma, who has arrived and who is instructing Priyavrata in the presence of Swayambhuva Manu and Narada Muni. And continuing those instructions, in today's verse, Lord Brahma is particularly saying, Ishabhisrishtam hi avarund mahenga. Anga, in a very affectionate, in a very dear manner. Dear Priyavrata, Anga, you use the word Anga to somebody who is junior to you, and you are very compassionate, you are very affectionate. So Lord Brahma, he is the foremost of the Devatas, and so he is very affectionately addressing Priyavrata, Anga. We must also notice that when someone like Brahma is addressing Priyavrata affectionately, the quality of the instruction that will flow from such a person. It is full of affection. It is for the well-being of the person. And there is no other inferior intent. It's a very noble intent. So he's saying, Ishabhisrushtam hyavarund mahenga dukkham sukham va gunakarma sangha. The Lord, Isha, He has created a certain body for us. Isha abhisrushtam. He has created a certain body, and avarundmahe, and He has given it to us, and we must accept it. Avarundmahe, avarunda, we have to accept it. Dukkham sukham va gunakarma sanghat. And this body will give us dukkha and sukha. And what is the basis? Gunakarma sanghat. Sangat, to come in contact, to come in the association. We come in contact with a certain guna, and based on that, we are impelled to act in a certain way. So, because of guna and karma sangat, dukkham sukham va, one experiences varieties of dukkha and sukha. Astaya tat-tad yung thanataha. Astaya tat-tad. Remain in that condition of happiness or distress. Astaya tat-tad. Yadayuntha. Ayuntha, what He has given, He has ordained. Natha, He is the Lord. He is the protector. He is the supreme Lord. He is the Natha. And Brahma sums up this instruction by giving an example, just as chakshushmatha anda iva niyamanaha. Niyamanaha, being conducted by, being guided by. Niyamanaha, chakshushmatha niyamanaha. A man who can see, he is called a chakshushmatha. And andha, who is a blind person. We come across in this world too. Sometimes there is a blind man who is struggling, and a man who can see will hold his hand and make him cross the road or take him up the steps or staircase or something. And at that time, the blind man is following the man who can see, and he is very confident. He is being led rightly. In the same way, the Lord is leading us with that confidence. Chakshushmatha anda iva niyamanaha. We must allow the Lord to conduct our lives and lead us. My dear Priyavrata, Anga, according to our association with different modes of material nature, guna karma sangat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Isha, gives us our specific bodies, abhisrushtam, and the happiness and distress we achieve, dukkham sukham va. One must therefore remain situated as he is, astaya tat, and be conducted, niyamanaha, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Natha. Exactly as a blind man, andha, is led, niyamanaha, by a person who has eyes with which to see, chakshushmatha, andha, iva niyamanaha. And Srila Prabhupada begins the purport with a very wonderful statement. By material means, one cannot avoid the happiness and distress unique to his particular body. There are 8,400,000 bodily forms, each destined to enjoy and suffer a certain amount of happiness and distress. This we cannot change, for the happiness and distress are ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in accordance with whose decision we have received our bodies. Some months back, I came across one article which described how some of the Western countries have developed very well with economic development and opportunities for good quality of life. And this particular article was about Europe. Europe has less population, and they have organized themselves so well, and very, very high quality of life practically everybody in the society is having, and not so much of hard work. And they were contemplating whether we should have 5-day working week, or we can reduce it to 4-day working week and give 3-day weekend for their people. Because things are so, you don't have to struggle like that. Good life, good quality, good food, good roads, clean roads, and everyone is educated and everything is so nice. Less population and all of that. And today we are seeing what has happened to people of Europe. See, this is the nature of this material world. By material plans, by material means, one cannot avoid the happiness and distress unique to his particular body. This is the reality of the material world. We cannot avoid the distresses that unfold in the material world. We think with a certain kind of a passionate attitude. No, I'm so smart. I will organize my world. I will organize my society very intelligently, by which everyone will be happy and we will not have miseries. But material nature is very, very different. So, here Prabhupada has said, each destined to enjoy and suffer a certain amount of happiness and distress. And in the translation, Prabhupada has used Ishabhisrishtam. Gives us, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives us our specific bodies and the happiness and distress we achieve. And once we have a certain body, it has certain happiness and distress. That quality of happiness and distress that cannot be altered. Prabhupada often gave the example. We cannot train the hog and educate him and enlighten him. Instead of eating what you eat normally, here there is nice halwa made with ghee and all that. Why don't you enjoy this? The hog cannot enjoy that. Hog has a certain kind of a body, and he is used to a certain kind of a happiness, and he will only go after that. In the same way, all of us get a certain body, a certain specific body, and this is given to us by the Lord, Ishabhisrishtam, and avarundmahe anga. We must accept it. The Lord has given us a body, And the Lord has given us certain happiness and distress. And we must avarunmahe. We must accept that. Astaya tat tat yadayung thanatha. And be satisfied in that situation. Bhagavatam explains, Prabhupada often quoted this verse, Karmana daiva netrena jantur dehopapattaye. Deha upapattaye. How does the body come about for the jantuhu? Jantu means a living entity. Karmana daiva netrena. As a result of our activities, past activities, under the supervision of the Lord, daiva netrena, jantur dehopapattaye. Striyaha pravishta udharam. Pumso retaha kanashrayaha. This verse, spoken by Lord Kapila, he explains how the soul enters and gets a body. First of all, the soul, retaha kanashrayaha. Retaha means the semen. That's why the celibate brahmacharis and sannyasis are known as urdhva retaha. They are those who allow the semen to raise up and become and transform and enlighten them. So those who control the senses, they are called urdhva reta. Retaha means semen. Retaha kanashrayaha. So the soul takes shelter. Pumso retaha kanashrayaha. The soul takes shelter of the semen, and striyaha pravishta udharam, and it enters the womb of a woman, of a mother. And in this way, jantur deho papattaye, and it develops a body. And how is this happening? Karmana daiva netrena. So the law under the supervision of the Lord. So we get a certain body, we are born in a certain family, we are born in a certain country, we are born with certain talents or no talents or whatever it is. Astaya tat tat yadayung dhanatha. We must learn to accept it, and importantly, whatever the Lord has given, we must accept. And how should we conduct our lives? Chakshushmatanda iva niyamanaha. And we should continue to follow his instruction. This niyamanaha, following his instruction, is an important point. Prabhupada stresses that in the purport of this verse. Under any circumstance, if we remain in the condition allotted to us by the Supreme Lord and follow his instructions, we will become perfect. This is the instruction. Whatever situation the Lord has given us, we must accept. It may be with some happiness, it may be with some distress. One should not be perturbed. Here Prabhupada has said, we should not aspire for happiness or regret distress. This is the mood of a devotee. We are not looking for happiness in this world, nor do we regret the distresses that come, because astaya tat tat yadayung thanata yadayung taha. It is given to us by the Lord. Natha yung taha. He has given. He is my Lord. He is my protector. And he has allowed this distress to come. So, astaya tat tat yadayung thanata. accept it. Not be distressed by it, not be very aggrieved by it. Yes, some pain will come, some miseries will come. We must be unaffected by that. We must learn to tolerate that. This is one of the important things that Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. Agama paino anityastham stithikshasva bharata. It is a necessary instruction for a spiritualist who is trying to understand what is transcendental life, what is spiritual life, to learn to tolerate the miseries that come about in the material world. We may act, we may respond to the miseries that come in this world in a certain formal, official manner that is expected of us in the material world. But beyond that, we should not be too distressed. We must learn to accept it and go on and learn to accept it and do what? Niyamanaha, and to be conducted, our lives to be conducted according to the directions of the Lord. Chakshushmata andha iva niyamanaha. So, in this way, the main purpose of life, Prabhupada is writing in the purport here, the main purpose of life is to follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is such instructions that constitute one's religion or occupational duty. Why is it that we should follow the instructions? What happens when we do that? When we do that, when we follow the instructions of the Lord, what happens is that Prabhupada is assuring here that is the success of life. That brings us success, perfection and success in our life. What is that success? What is that perfection? Prabhupada pointed that out in the previous verse purport, and he's also pointing that out in this purport. The success of human form of life is to come to the transcendental platform. That is the success. And that happens when we follow the instruction. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. I don't know if you have heard, I've shared one story. When we were in the other temple before we came here, there was one visitor who came and said, some devotee brought him to me. And then the devotee came and told me, Prabhu, he is saying that he has found one mistake in the Bhagavad Gita and he wants to tell you about it. So I said, okay, all right, who is this man? And then he came, he's a person who could quote verse, and he quoted the famous verse. He said, Krishna has said, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Krishna should have said, Sarva adharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam. Looks like an interesting thing. Because Krishna says, Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I come to establish Dharma. And Krishna is saying, Dharman parityajya. There's one nice conversation with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada addresses this point. Prabhupada says, there are two kinds of Dharma. One is called Parodharma, another is called Aparadharma. Paradharma and Aparadharma. Aparadharma is inferior dharma, where you do dharma, worship of the Lord, follow His instruction with an intent for certain fruitive benefit for oneself. That is called Aparadharma. A large portion of the Vedic religion is also about Aparadharma. That's actually known as Karmakanda religion. So you perform some dharma, religion, and you're looking for some good benefit. In the second canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami describes the different kinds of desires the conditioned soul develops. And all kinds of desires he has. Koshakama, Annakama, Prajakama, Rajyakama, Yashakama, Shrikama. So on and so on and so on. And that's what happens in this material world. And people driven by those karma, they follow certain religion, and by which they may get some of those desired things. And that is known as aparadharma. And parodharma is savai pumsam parodharma yatha bhakti adhokshaja. It is to develop bhakti to adhokshaja, to the transcendental Lord. And so that is the dharma that Krishna is asking us to parityajya. That is described in the Bhagavatam as kaitava dharma. It's actually a kind of a cheating religion, because dharma can give you something very, very wonderful. And if you settle down for taking something very, very less, you are actually getting cheated. And so it is known as kaitava dharma. So that's why Krishna ends the Bhagavad Gita by saying sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. And Bhagavatam begins by saying kaitava dharma projita, dharma kaitava projita, nirmatsaranam satham. And this Bhagavatam establishes the highest principles of religion. So when we do this, when we follow, when our lives are directed by the instructions of the Lord, for that, one important requirement is that we must be humble. We must understand, we must accept, I am andha, I am blind, I cannot see. I don't know what is happening in this world. What I know about this world, this universe is so less. And hence, I need help from one who can see. And the Lord, who is the creator of everything, Ishabhisrishtam, if I am directed, niyamanaha, my life should be conducted by the Lord. Just as a blind man is led by a man who can see. Chakshushmatanta iva niyamanaha. So when that happens, the result is one comes to the transcendental platform. And in the previous verse, Brahma gave one other analogy. He said, Prota nasaiva dvipade chatushpadaha. Just like a bull with a rope passed through its nose is drawn and conducted by the dvipadaha, by a human being, and at that time the bull simply follows wherever the master takes the bull. If we are conducted by the Vedic injunctions, Vedic directions that way, simply following the Vedic directions, the directions of the Bhagavad Gita, directions of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, as expounded by exalted acharyas, if our lives are niyamanaha, if our lives are conducted like that, not deviate in any way, the bull never can't go here or this way or that way, because it is being pulled by the rope passing through its nose. In that way, such strict adherence to the Vedic instructions, and just like a blind man when he is conducted by a man who can see, in this way, if we conduct our lives, what happens is that we rise to the transcendental platform. And Prabhupada is pointing out in this verse and in this purport and the previous purport, that this instruction is not for some people alone. This is a universal instruction. Everyone can get the benefit of coming to a transcendental platform by following the instructions of the Lord. And that, because unless we come to the transcendental platform, we cannot come in touch with the Lord. Lord is known as Adhokshaja. His very existence is on a transcendental platform. We can't come in touch with the Lord unless we rise ourselves to the transcendental platform. And that transcendental platform, it is not that only Brahmanas can. The Brahmanas can, the Kshatriyas can, the Vaishyas can, the Shudras can. By being situated in their own position and following the instructions. Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. Swakarmana, by doing his own duties. A Shudra by doing his duties. A Kshatriya by doing his duties. Brahmana, Vaishya doing their respective duties. Siddhim vindati manavaha. One can attain perfection, and that perfection is coming to the transcendental platform, because only on the transcendental platform we can make further progress of developing our relationship with the Lord. We all have a unique relationship, and we all have a unique contribution to make for the pleasure of the Lord. That's the statement of Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself for his spiritual bliss, and all the living entities are part and parcel of that spiritual bliss of the Lord. That is why Krishna expanded himself into all of us as living entities, and all of us are meant to give him a certain pleasure. We all have a certain unique relationship. That's the capacity of the Lord to enjoy unlimited enjoyment from every living entity. Every living entity can contribute. That is the position of the living. That is how we are constituted for his pleasure. So, to experience that and to offer that pleasure to the Lord, we have to come to the transcendental platform. And that is considered success in life. And then Prabhupada sums up by saying that the entire world is working under the influence of the modes of material nature, especially ignorance and passion. But if people engage in hearing and chanting about the glories of the Supreme Lord, their lives can be successful and they can be elevated to the highest perfection. And then Prabhupada talks about the holy name of the Lord. And then in conclusion, Prabhupada says, therefore, we must be satisfied in whatever position we have been put into by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we should try to engage ourselves in his devotional service. For thus, one will gradually come to understand his real position in life and be elevated to the transcendental position above the mode of goodness. Thus, all impediments to his progress will be cut to pieces. Thus, our lives will be successful. So, success in our life is to come to the transcendental platform. Because we don't know what kind of distress, what kind of a situation. I was reading last few days, everyone is reading about what's happening in the world. This was another story about a person who was dying, an elderly person dying in some part of Europe because of the virus. And the family members wanted to see him. But then the doctors concluded that no, he wanted to see the family members, the dying man. And the family members wanted to see him. But then the doctors decided, the hospital decided, no, because we have to save, we only have this many number of masks and this and that. And so they just let him, and he was alone and he died alone. Just see the different kind of situation. The most developed country, economically doing very well, rich people, everything, the quality of life, we have improved so much and all of that. And that man wants to see, and he is also in that state, he wants to be with his family members, and he is not allowed to. How can we be in this kind of a situation? How can we be suffering like that? I want to see, but I can't see. This is the position. I have so much money and all these kind of. So, Krishna consciousness offers that we can come to a position, a certain transcendental platform. And in that transcendental platform, we are connected to the Lord, and nobody can take away that connection with the Lord. No virus, no mask, no hospital decision, nothing can take away our transcendental happiness in association with the Lord, in just remembering the Lord, in chanting the Lord's name, and being in touch with the Lord. All of this wonderful pleasure, the treasure of Krishna consciousness, we can experience when we come to the transcendental platform. And we can come to the transcendental platform if we are niyamanaha, we are conducted by the instructions of the Lord. This is the great treasure, and this is not only meant for Indians, this is not only meant for Brahmanas, it's meant for everyone. This knowledge is so basic, fundamental, and universal. Everyone should get this benefit. These were the instruction. There's one last point. There is one part of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Prithu Maharaj, he is addressing his citizens. And there he says, I want to organize my kingdom on the basis of these instructions, that we are all part and parcel of the Lord. We must all serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead through our activities, by our activities. And I want to organize the world, my kingdom, according to these instructions. And Prabhupada says that this is how the society should be organized. And if we do that, the whole society can be elevated to a transcendental platform. These are all unknown things in this world today, unfortunately. And there is so much despair. Oh, what is happening? This is happening. What will happen to the economy? What next few years? What is so much despair and disappointment in the air? But actually, if we have this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we may act according to the different things in this material world, social distance, wash your hands, and all those things we may do. That's all required. That's part of the material world. Vyavaharik level, we must perform those things. But a devotee aspiration is that by the mercy of my spiritual master and Krishna, I can elevate myself to a transcendental platform and relish the wonderful things that the Supreme Lord offers to the living entity. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Rupa Goswami's instruction, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction, there are so many things that are described on that transcendental platform. How Rati matures and increases, and at that time one is full of joy, heart is full of joy. All such things, it will just be theoretical knowledge if we don't ourselves aspire and come to that transcendental platform. This is not something that is not achievable. It is very much achievable. That is what Srila Prabhupada often taught, that this is something that each one of us can aspire to achieve. This is not just some kind of a theoretical thing. It is something that we can aspire to experience. So these are wonderful instructions by Srila Prabhupada in this purport. We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any updates.